Up first, let's start with the COVID situation in Delhi and in Mumbai. Daily cases seem to have started crossing the third wave peak in metro cities. Mumbai cases were down by 88% from the peak, 2,550 new cases, 28% down from the day before. The positivity rate is also down to 5.54%, down from 30%, which was reported 16 days ago. In Maharashtra, overall 40,805 new cases were reported and 44 deaths in a single day. And if we talk about Delhi, 9,197 new COVID cases were reported in Delhi in a 24-hour period, and the positivity rate is now 13.32%. New cases have also decreased, and the positivity rate is also decreased by 3%. 34 patients, however, died in that 24-hour period. And daily new cases crossed 50,000 in Karnataka, with Bengaluru reporting over half these cases. The positivity rate in the state is very high at 22.77%. Karnataka reported more cases than Maharashtra, which has been the hardest hit state in the last month. Now, in Maharashtra, a big decision today. Schools in several cities are reopening as daily COVID cases have declined. This time around, based on the advice of the state COVID task force, the closure of schools has been limited to around 3 weeks post the Christmas vacation to avoid the tremendous learning gap that students had to face, as physical schools were closed all through 2020 since the pandemic began and almost entire 2021. Well, let's go across to Saurav for more on this. So, Saurav, an exciting day for students. It's back to school for them. The government has said schools have to adhere to COVID protocols, and opening of the schools also depends on the local administration's decision.
This is, of course, a great news for both students and teachers who've been complaining about having been left at home, and that's why they are very happy about the fact that schools are reopening. And this is something that many people have been pointing out, that there's been a huge learning gap because of the closure of schools, or physical schools, so to speak. Online schooling really doesn't provide the learning experience that a classroom atmosphere does. And also, many teachers have been pointing out the social skills of students as a result of not having a classroom atmosphere and looking at a computer screen all day has also suffered, and it has had an impact on the mental health of students as well. So in that context, this time around, acting on the advice of the state COVID task force, the Maharashtra government has ensured that the closure is limited to as less time as possible, which is why they've ensured that the schools reopen as soon as cases come down. They've not waited too long to watch. They've rather just waited for about a week since the cases dropped dramatically, and now they've decided to reopen the schools from today. And students, of course, have welcomed that move as well.
All right. Thanks so much, Saurabh, for joining us with that. So, yes, schools opening there in Maharashtra, and as you could see, there are many excited students. Now, if we talk about the third wave, the Omicron variant of COVID is in community transmission stage in India and has become dominant in multiple metros where new cases have been rising exponentially. The government genome panel has said the Genomics Consortium checks variations in coronavirus across the nation to help understand how it spreads and evolves, and had to suggest the best public health response. A BA.2 lineage, an infectious subvariant of Omicron, has been found in a substantial fraction in India. And this is something scientists the world over are keeping a close watch on. This recently discovered a subvariant of the Omicron version of COVID to see how it behaves. In other news now, the Supreme Court will hear a plea seeking the quashing of the centre's alleged decision by which nearly 6,000 NGOs lost their foreign funding, which would impact their vital humanitarian advocacy and other operations in India. So that comes up for hearing today. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said he was informed by sources that the Enforcement Directorate would arrest Health Minister Satyendra Jain in coming days. At a press briefing, the Chief Minister said raids backed by the centre were conducted twice against Satyendra Jain, but nothing was found against the Delhi Health Minister.
हमें अपने सूत्रों से पता चला है कि पंजाब चुनाव के पहले आने वाले कुछ दिनों में ईडी सत्येंद्र जैन जी को गिरफ्तार करने वाली है, और जब जब बीजेपी चुनाव कहीं भी हार रही होती है तो वो सारी एजेंसीज को छोड़ देती है। तो बीजेपी की केंद्र सरकार ईडी के साथ साथ अगर और भी एजेंसीज भेजना चाहिए, सीबीआई है, इनकम टैक्स है, और भी जितनी उनके पास एजेंसी है, दिल्ली पुलिस है, जो एजेंसीज भेजना चाहे वो भेज सकती हैं। वो गिरफ्तार करना चाहे केवल सत्येंद्र जैन नहीं, और भी किसी को भी गिरफ्तार करना चाहें गिरफ्तार कर सकती हैं। हम चन्नी जी की तरह रोएंगे नहीं, हम चन्नी जी की तरह बौखलाएंगे नहीं। बुरी तरह से बौखलाए हुए चन्नी जी, हाय रे मर गया रे, मेरे ऊपर रेड कर दी रे, मेरे रिश्तेदारों पे रेड कर दी रे। क्यों बौखलाए हुए हैं? वो बौखलाए हुए हैं क्योंकि उन्होंने गलत काम किए हैं, उनकी गलतियां पकड़ी गई है। हमने कोई चूंकि गलत काम नहीं किया तो हमें किसी तरह का कोई डर नहीं है।
Now, former Punjab Chief Minister Amarinder Singh announced his new party, Punjab Lok Congress's first list of candidates from 22 constituencies for February 20th state elections, with the former captain of the Indian hockey team, Ajitpal Singh, among the prominent names. Amarinder Singh will fight from his home constituency of Patiala Urban.
I am fighting Patiala Urban. नहीं, नवजोत सिंह सिद्धू ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਿੱਤਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਣਾ और ना जितन देना। Look, I don't want to discuss Mr. Sidhu because मैं सिद्धू ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ हर वेले unstable ही किया। From day one I've said the man has no brains, he is nothing, he is just a waste of time.
Now, AP's chief ministerial face, Bhagwant Mann, was in Dhuri, from where he's contesting the polls, and by fielding its chief ministerial face, Bhagwant Mann from the Dhuri constituency, AP seems to be sending a strong message to voters by installing party heavyweights as nominees in the politically significant Malwa region. The Dhuri assembly segment falls under Mann's Lok Sabha constituency, Sangrur, and it helped him garner the maximum number of votes in the 2019 general elections. NDTV Sharad Sharma spoke with Bhagwant Mann.
देखिए, धूरी वालों ने जब भी हमने कोई उनको किसी बात के लिए पुकारा, उन्होंने दुगना तिगना प्यार दिया। हाँ, धूरी अपने रिकॉर्ड तोड़ना जानती है। 2014 में धूरी 30,000 से ऊपर जीते थे। हाँ, 2019 में फिर 30,000 से ऊपर जीते थे। हाँ, तो धूरी के लोग हैं, अपने लोग हैं। हाँ, और धूरी के लोग इस बात से खुश हैं कि हमारे कस्बे, हमारे गाँव के नाम पार्लियामेंट में जब बोले जाते हैं, हाँ, तो उनको मान होता है कि हाँ हमारा लड़का है। कोने भी नहीं बचेंगे, कोनों में भी सफाई होगी। और 10 मार्च को देखना, इसी समय तक आप जो है वो बता रहे होंगे कि पंजाब हुआ आपका।
The BJP's ally Apna Dal announced its first candidate for the UP Assembly polls, and the candidate is Haider Ali Khan from Suar in Rampur, from where Abdullah Azam, the son of jailed Samajwadi Party MP Azam Khan, is expected to contest on a Samajwadi Party ticket. The BJP and its allies have still not officially announced their seat-sharing arrangement with Mr. Khan's candidature from a BJP ally. It's among the rare instances of the BJP alliance fielding a Muslim candidate for the UP election. Haider Ali Khan is from the erstwhile royal family of Rampur. His grandfather, Zulfikar Ali Khan, was a 5-term Congress MP from Rampur, and Haider's father, Nawab Kazim Ali Khan, is a 4-term MLA who, as of now, is the Congress's candidate from Rampur. Now, two UP BJP leaders want to contest from the same Sarojini Nagar seat in Lucknow. They also happen to be husband and wife, which puts the party in a double bind. NDTV Saurabh Shukla gets us the details.
It's a marriage of like-minded people, truly. UP Minister Swati Singh, who is the sitting MLA, and her husband Dayashankar Singh, both want to contest from the same Sarojini Nagar seat. In 2016, after public outrage, Dayashankar was expelled for abusing BSP chief Mayawati. His wife Swati was then declared the BJP candidate. Days after BJP's landslide victory in the 2017 elections, the BJP revoked Dayashankar's suspension and he was re-inducted into the party. Now he wants his seat back and refuses to back down.
पार्टी कहेगी तो जरूर लड़ेंगे भाई। पिछली बार पार्टी ने कहा कि आपको लड़ना नहीं लड़ाना है, तो मैं लड़ाने में था। इस बार पार्टी कहेगी कि लड़ना है आपको, तो लड़ने में रहूंगा।
Mrs. Singh, who is also the head of the BJP's women's wing, had come to prominence after she launched a campaign against BSP leaders who had raised slogans against her minor daughter, following her husband's use of derogatory words for Miss Mayawati. Faced with the ticket quandary, the BJP has been stalling.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी में टिकट वितरण करने की एक विस्तृत प्रक्रिया है जिसमें नीचे से फीडबैक लेकर के जनता के साथ सर्वे करके पार्टी के निचले स्तर के कैडर के साथ बातचीत करके कांग्रेस की चुनाव समिति और बाद में केंद्रीय चुनाव समिति इस संदर्भ में निर्णय लेने का काम करती है और अंतिम मुहर सेंट्रल पार्लियामेंट्री बोर्ड में जाता है जिसको भी कमल के फूल का सिंबल मिलेगा वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी का प्रत्याशी बनेगा।
The strife between the couple has reached such proportions that the two are living separately.
Because both Swati Singh and Daya Shankar is fighting, there's a possibility that BJP may give ticket to someone else to avoid any kind of conflict. In Lucknow, with Rajesh Gupta, Saurabh Shukla for NDTV.
Welcome back. Kerala's Pinarayi Vijayan and Tamil Nadu's M.K. Stalin on Sunday joined the growing list of chief ministers who have emphatically opposed the central government's proposed changes to the assignment rules of Indian administrative service officers. The amendment to the IS cadre rules proposed by the centre strike at the very root of the nation's federal polity and state autonomy is what Mr. Stalin has said in a letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Mr. Vijayan also sent a similar letter urging the government to drop the move, saying it will create a fear psychosis among civil service officials and to implement the state government policies. In a proposal that has faced vehement disapproval from many opposition ruled states, the union government has given itself powers to appoint and transfer IS and IPS officers overruling state governments. The central government has defended its proposal, saying states are not sparing enough IS officers for it, affecting the functioning of the central government. News now from the northeast, from Assam, where a massive protest was staged by students in Assam's Nagaon against the police after cops shot a former student leader on suspicion of being a drug peddler. The protest saw students blocking a highway and raising slogans against the Assam police and Nagaon SP Anand Mishra for alleged brutality against the former student leader. Assam police has claimed that they acted on a tip about drug peddling. Over the past couple of months, Nagaon has seen a series of operations against drug peddlers, many encounters resulting in deaths and injuries. This comes at a time when there is a case going on in the Guwahati High Court over alleged fake encounters by the Assam police, and also the NHRC is investigating a similar petition.
তাৰ গাত কোন স্পট যিটো ল'ৰা এখন তামোল পৰ্যন্ত নাখায়, নিচা বস্তু একো নাখায়, নগাঁও কলেজৰ জেঠ আছিল কি আৰু সেইটো বিনা দোষী ল'ৰাক মাৰিলে তে পুলিচৰ কেনেকুৱা গুণ্ডা ৰাজ হৈছে এতিয়া।
As far as yesterday's police firing incident in Nagaon, I have already constituted a one-man inquiry commission led by Additional Chief Secretary Pavan Thakur. He has been asked to give report within 7 days. Meanwhile, the officers concerned will be close to reserve. If we found that police has done wrong with the innocent person, action will be initiated immediately.
Here, for anything and everything, our Chief Minister has openly remarked in the House when we raised this issue that I have asked them to make it a pattern. And it is happening like that. And it is very unfortunate that when somebody going to buy medicine, he will be shot and police will say that he was peddling drugs and all. So this is like police rush, and we will not let it happen.
हेतु आमी जे आगे खबर पाइसिले आमार यात खबर पाइसिलो कि এই মোড়ত লৰাগুলি আজিকালি কি হৈছে যেতে ড্ৰাগছৰ এগেইনষ্টত কিমান হৈছে তো যে ঠিকানাগুলি সকল বন্ধ হৈছে তেতিয়া গৈ যেতিয়া এই মানুহটো তাৰ তেতিয়াই গৈ এই মানুহৰ সাসপেশন হৈছে তাক চ্যালেঞ্জ কৰিছে কোনে হয় তুমি কিয় ঘূৰি আছে কৈ দিলা আমি পুলিচৰ হম কোৱাৰ লগে লগতে তাফৰাতাফৰি মাচি গল আৰু স্টার্ট হৈ গল একজন দুজন পলালে তার পৰা আৰু সেই লৰাটো তাৰ আমাৰ যে দুজন পালে আগত প্ৰথম ধামধুম আটাক কৰি দিলে তাৰ ওপৰত।
Well, Ratnadeep joins us on the phone line for more. And Ratnadeep, give us more details of this particular case and what's the situation there like now?
Well, the situation this morning there is there's calm. The protesters were protesting yesterday, and mostly the protesters are students who were from the college. Remember this youth who have been shot is a 28-year-old, and he was a former leader, a former general secretary of a college in Nagaon. Now, police says that on Saturday night they had a tip-off that there would be, some peddling of drugs in a particular area, and where police was there in plain clothes, and they suspected this youth, and there was a scuffle between the youth and the policeman, and in the heat of the moment, that the police claims that he also attacked them. They had to fire. But what is important here is that this comes at a time when, remember, there have been a series in the last 6-7 months. There have been a series of police encounters and police firing. Most of the time, police have come on record to say that either the person they were trying to arrest or the accused person who was in their custody was trying to flee, and they had to fire. But when the chief minister, remember, a few months back, was asked by media that a pattern of police encounters is emerging, he had categorically on record said that this should be the pattern. Police has to be aggressive. But the fact is that with many the opposition as well as human rights activists, they have been saying that the pattern which is emerging is that day by day Assam police is becoming trigger happy, and that's something that people are concerned about. In fact, there is a case which is going on at the Guwahati High Court on the series of encounters that has taken place. NHRC had taken it in their cognizance and had issued notice to the Assam government. So this is being investigated. But in this particular case, this time for the first time among all the series of cases of police firing and police encounters, for the first time in this case, the state government has come forward to say that, we have taken cognizance of what has happened in the protests, and we have formed this committee and it will look into it. So now this happened in Nagaon, where in Nagaon district you had the highest number of incidents where drug peddlers were chased, were picked up. And there have been incidents where another drug peddler got shot and got killed in a police encounter. Now, remember, Assam has launched a massive drive against the drug menace, where the police has been very successful as well. And there have been a huge consignment of drugs, caught over the last few months. But
all right, but still we have these sort of situations and incidents happening in which the police is accused of being too trigger happy. Thanks so much, Ratnadi, for joining us with those details. Time for us to now slip into a short break. On the other side, the Prime Minister unveiled a hologram statue of Subhash Chandra Bose yesterday at India Gate. We'll get you the details. Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat. Those are the top stories we're tracking this morning. But first, the COVID numbers that have just come in and been released by the Health Ministry. India has reported 306,064 new COVID cases in the past 24 hours. This is 8% lower than the day before. The daily positivity rate, however, is 20.75%, and that has gone up from 17.78% the previous day. Let's go across to Shonakshi for more. And Shonakshi, usually after the weekend, we do see a dip in COVID numbers, and it's gone down by 8%. But what's more telling is that the positivity rate has increased.
Well, absolutely, Gargi. The positivity rate of the country has slightly gone up. And like you rightly mentioned, after the weekend, we usually see in the country a dip in the number of cases. And India's active caseload at the moment stands at over 22,49,000 cases. The active cases stand at 5.69%. The country has reported over 3 lakh new cases in the last 24 hours. Our daily positivity rate now stands at 20.75%, slightly over than yesterday. We were at about 17% yesterday, and the weekly positivity rate is now at 17.03%. This is, of course, also at a time when the vaccination drive is currently ongoing in the country. 162.26 crore vaccine doses total have been administered so far under the vaccination drive. So that's right. Over 2,43,000 recoveries have also taken place, and the total total recoveries now stand at over 3 crore cases, but the daily positivity rate has definitely increased in the last 24 hours. And while the new number of cases, the 24-hour tally has reduced since yesterday.
All right, Shonakshi, thanks so much for joining us. Well, that's the latest data on COVID in the country. Now, if we take a look at the metros, and this is based on the numbers that came out yesterday evening, daily cases seem to have started crossing the third wave peaks in the metro cities. In Mumbai, cases are actually down by 88% from the peak. 2,550 new cases were reported, 28% down from the previous day. The positivity rate is down to 5.54%, down from 30%, which was reported just 16 days ago. In Maharashtra, overall, 40,805 new cases and 44 deaths have been reported. If we look at the national capital, then Delhi reported 9,197 new COVID cases, and the positivity rate is 13.32%. New cases also decreased, and the positivity rate has also decreased by 3%. 34 patients died in Delhi in the last 24 hours. And in Karnataka, the daily new COVID cases have crossed 50,000. And with Bengaluru reporting over half these cases, the positivity rate in the state is at 22.77%. So that remains worrying. Karnataka reported more cases than Maharashtra, which has been the hardest hit state in the last 1 month. Now, in Maharashtra, today schools have reopened in several cities as daily COVID cases are declining. And this time around, it's based on the advice of the state COVID task force. The closure of schools has been limited to around 3 weeks post the Christmas vacation to avoid the tremendous learning gap that students had to face as physical schools were closed all through 2020 and almost the whole of 2021. Now, let's go across to Saurabh now for more. And Saurabh, it's something that has been welcomed by students and parents, the reopening of schools in the state.
Absolutely. It's something that has really been welcomed by students and parents because of the learning gap that this was resulting in, the continued closure of schools. Now, I am here at the R.N. Poddar school, and there's a hybrid model of schooling taking place because there are, of course, those parents who are still worried and don't want to send their children to school, but then again, there are others who are also here. So, I mean, we will be disturbing their class for a bit. But you can see, of course, there's a camera that's, teaching students who are logging in from their home. And then, of course, there's the classroom atmosphere as well, where students are, studying in class. I have with me the headmistress of the school, Ma'am Nitika Bajaj. Ma'am, I'd like to ask you very quickly. The classroom atmosphere is back, and you have a hybrid version also. And how is this working? If you could just come ahead, ma'am.
Like I said, a few students who are a little, who've not been vaccinated because the lot over here has been partially vaccinated. They are here in school. Probably they were also full of trepidation. But anyway, they have shown courage and they are here. The other lot, probably those who are not vaccinated. Because if you ask
from that computer.
They are logging in from that computer. The online, if you can see, while she was teaching, the online class was going on as well as the offline class. Right. So we are following the hybrid model as well as the staggered way, we're going ahead with. Because we are having partial sections in the school.
All right. So, ma'am, so are only the non-vaccinated students logging in from home, and those who are vaccinated are coming back to school?
Yes, I think I'm seeing that trend, because if I've asked these students, they're all vaccinated. So I think that's the trend right now. Probably the ones who are vaccinated or who've had the COVID, they are feeling comfortable, enough to come.
Can I just have a show of hands? How many are vaccinated here? Okay, so that's almost everyone is vaccinated, yeah. So that perhaps is the trend. Ma'am, if I can just quickly get in a word with the students. I'm very sorry, I know you're in the middle of class. If you can tell me, does it feel good to be back? Because all of you seem to be complaining about a learning gap.
Yes, we all are very happy because, 2 years online was very annoying for us because honestly, the comfort zone that we were in, we couldn't learn, and physical classes started. We are with our friends, we are more disciplined, and we can study more.
You think there was a lack of discipline in online schooling?
I hate to admit it, but yes.
All right, that's quite candid. If I can ask you, how does it feel to be back in the classroom atmosphere? Do you share the same sentiment?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely pay more attention in class because the teacher's watching you. So.
All right. All right. Let me just quickly get in a word with the other students before we wrap up. What was the biggest challenge of online classes, and how have you sort of managed that, having come back to the physical classroom?
I think the biggest challenge was to attend it and concentrate. Like in online, you can't do it perfectly. When you come here, the teacher is watching you, and you are more disciplined. And I think often is the mode where you really study. In online, you are in your comfort zone. Few may listen and few may don't.
Very quickly, how about you? What do you think?
I think the same, because to be honest, even I lacked discipline in my online classes. Like, we were all so much into the comfort zone, like waking up when we want and attending lectures at our own pace. Yeah. So I think
getting up in the morning and coming to school has been
yes, it is a bit of a hassle, but I think we'll get into practice soon.
All right. And you can see, of course, those students who are not, vaccinated or are logging in from home are here. They're all logging in from home. And of course, those who are here. So that's how you've broken it up. Ma'am, how is it going so far? Do you think now, given that, we're heading towards the end of the pandemic, as many say, this hybrid model is the way forward, and till the time actually we are fully out of it?
Absolutely. And then we hope, and we are very positive that we're going to be out of the pandemic. But then, we don't have all the answers. So we'll have to wait and watch it. We'll have to play it by the ear. And we're going to be, of course, we're going to be very, very hopeful that we put all this behind us and it's back to the old normal.
For the students, returning to classroom is perhaps the best sentiment, because like they said, discipline issues and a lot of other things that always, are there when you're studying or attending class from home.
All right, Saurabh, well, good to see the students happy to be back. It's still challenging, I can imagine, for, the school administration to do this hybrid model. But for the moment, it's good to see that schools opening there in Maharashtra. Let's focus now on Bengaluru and Karnataka. And Karnataka is seeing a steady rise in COVID numbers. In fact, they've crossed the number from Maharashtra. And Bengaluru especially is seeing an increase in numbers with 26,299 testing positive on Sunday. This is a 10 times increase in cases that is being reported in Mumbai. Bengaluru started to witness the upward trend soon after a Sankranti festival that was celebrated. Let's go across to Shrija now for more. And Shrija, you were reporting during the festival time about the crowds that were seen outside and how COVID protocols weren't being followed. And now this surge in cases with Karnataka actually reporting more cases than Maharashtra.
The surge in cases have been acknowledged by the Karnataka government, and that is also one of the reasons what we understand the government went ahead and lifted the weekend curfew as well. Now, despite the rise in cases, remember all that the government could say was that hospitalization was just about 5% and it does not really require or necessitate as far as weekend curfew is concerned. Now, just straight, at least about 2 days after, we are looking at a surge which is nearly 10 times higher than as far as Mumbai is concerned. Remember, Mumbai on Sunday reported at least about 2,250 cases. As far as Bengaluru is concerned, we have crossed 26,000. So this varies. The daily average varies anywhere between 25,000 to 30,000. This is just the daily average that we're talking about, with over the positivity rate crossing over 23%. Now, what's also important to note as far as the cases surge here in Bengaluru and across the state of Karnataka is the cases that we're looking at is an increase of nearly 43% as far as the previous week is concerned. This is the previous week that we're talking about till about 15th, when the festivals were around. We looked at cases anywhere between 1 lakh. This is nearly 1,05,000 cases. But as far as just last week is concerned, we have seen an increase of 43%, which is nearly 1,63,000 cases is what we have looked at.
All right, Shrija, thanks so much for joining us. With that, and another state that saw a post-festival spike in cases, Tamil Nadu has now registered a slight dip in cases after witnessing a worrying spike in daily cases since Pongal. On Sunday, the state recorded 30,580 cases, 0.6% lesser than the day before. The state's daily tally has spiked by 46% since the Pongal festival on the 14th, as 8 lakh people had travelled to their hometowns, triggering a spike in districts and rural areas as well.
Enjoy.
The Omicron variant of COVID is in community transmission stage in India and has become dominant in multiple metros where new cases have been rising exponentially. The government genome panel said yesterday the Genomics Consortium, which checks variations in the coronavirus across the country, helps us understand how it is spreading and evolves and to suggest the best public health response. However, they also said that the BA.2 lineage, an infectious subvariant of Omicron, has been found in a substantial fraction in India. Scientists world over are keeping a close watch on this recently discovered subvariant to understand how the virus will mutate further. Well, let's now get you all the election news. And former Punjab Chief Minister Capt Amarinder Singh announced his new party, Punjab Lok Congress's first list of candidates on Sunday from 22 constituencies for the February 20th state elections, with former captain of the Indian hockey team Ajit Pal Singh among the prominent names. Amarinder Singh himself will fight from his home constituency of Patiala Urban.
I am fighting Patiala Urban. नहीं नवजोत सिंह सिद्धू ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਿੱਤਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਣਾ ਔਰ ਨਾ ਜਿੱਤਣ ਦੇਣਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਦੀ ਲੋਕ I don't want to discuss Mr. Sidhu because ਮੈਂ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਹਰ ਵੇਲੇ unstable ਹੀ ਕਿਹਾ from day one I've said the man has no brains, he is nothing, he is just a waste of time.
Now, the Aam Aadmi Party's chief ministerial face, Bhagwant Mann, was in Dhuri, from where he's contesting, and by fielding its chief ministerial face from Dhuri constituency, the Aam Aadmi Party seems to be sending a strong message to voters by installing party heavyweights as nominees in the politically significant Malwa region. NDTV's Sharad Sharma spoke with Bhagwant Mann.
देखिए, धूरी वालों ने जब भी हमने कोई उनको किसी बात के लिए पुकारा, उन्होंने दुगना तिगना प्यार दिया। हाँ, धूरी अपने रिकॉर्ड तोड़ना जानती है। 2014 में धूरी 30,000 से ऊपर जीते थे। हाँ। 2019 में फिर 30,000 से ऊपर जीते थे। हाँ। तो धूरी के लोग हैं, अपने लोग हैं। हाँ। और धूरी के लोग इस बात से खुश हैं कि हमारे कस्बे, हमारे गांव के नाम पार्लियामेंट में जब बोले जाते हैं, हाँ, तो उनको मान होता है कि हाँ हमारा लड़का है। कोने भी नहीं बचेंगे, कोनों में भी सफाई होगी। और 10 मार्च को देखना, इसी समय तक आप जो है वो बता रहे होंगे कि पंजाब हुआ आपका।
In other news now, the Supreme Court will today hear a plea against the centre's refusal to renew the FCRA license of nearly 6,000 NGOs. The Foreign Contribution Regulation Act registration is mandatory for any association and NGO to receive foreign funding. Now, the plea filed by an NGO Global Peace Initiative says cancellation of the licenses can have a debilitating effect on COVID relief efforts as the country is battling its third wave of infections, and the work done by these NGOs has helped millions of Indians so far. The plea has fought extension of FCRA license of NGOs till COVID remains notified as a national disaster. Time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, a disturbing story from Uttar Pradesh where a teenage boy has died. The family claims it's after a police assault. Welcome back. Let's get you the latest COVID numbers. And 3,06,064 new cases recorded in the last 24 hours, which is 8% less than the previous day. But the daily positivity rate has gone up from 17.78% to 20.75%. Now, today, schools in several cities in Maharashtra have reopened as daily COVID cases are declining there. This time around, based on the advice of the state COVID task force, the closure of schools was limited around 3 weeks post the Christmas vacation to avoid the tremendous learning gap that students are facing, as well as physical schools were closed all through 2020 since the pandemic began and almost entire 2021. So it'll be interesting to see, the COVID graph in Maharashtra as schools have reopened. But to talk more about the impact COVID has had on children and what we're seeing in this particular third wave, we're joined by Dr. Naveen Thakkar, Executive Director, International Pediatric Association. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. And I think this is a question a lot of parents have. There's been so much anxiety around children over the last 2 years with the pandemic. And what are we seeing in this third wave? What have we observed? Are infections increasing among children?
Yes, infection is increasing, but still we see that these are mostly mild or asymptomatic cases. So if we see the zero prevalence report of previous wave, particularly second wave, Delta wave, where zero prevalence revealed that children were infected before that time also. But still, what we yesterday I also had a lot of interaction. Still, there are. It's not that children are getting a serious disease or say hospitalization. Definitely, there will be, because the Omicron is so transmissible and number will increase so much. So there will be some increase in some absolute number, but still the children mostly have the mild or asymptomatic disease.
All right, sir. So another, question parents have, and now, like we saw in Maharashtra, schools have reopened. So what precautions should parents take to protect their children?
So that's a very good question. And throughout this pandemic, we have been arguing that the schools should be last to close and first to open. So that's a very welcome step. And I congratulate Maharashtra Task Force for this good decision. And we also, we should never link vaccination of children with reopening of the school. We have to understand that there are many other ways where we can decrease or prevent the infection, which includes mask above 5 years of age, good ventilation in a school, which is most important, and they have to do reorganize like that. Social distancing, and keep watch on say if the children are having symptoms, to isolate them, and also immunizing the say eligible population and also the teachers. That's very important to reopen the school, and I'm very happy that Maharashtra is going that way. And it is very because there are a lot of other damage. We know that Omicron is also mild, but still we continue to punish the children, and the indirect effects of pandemic on children are tremendous. We always say that children are hidden victims, and the biggest impact of pandemic is on the children, not on the adults, even if we calculate in any way. And there are a lot of data to support that. And unfortunately, school closure in India was longest.
Right,
so
it was the longest, in fact, 2020 and then 2021 also. Mostly schools were closed, and it's had a terrible impact on children, which will also still learn in years to come. But sir, you said, talked about Omicron being mild, and we've also been told that usually children are more resilient, they bounce back faster. The worry is, of course, that if they're carriers and they come back to their families and spread the disease there. But do we know more about how the variant behaves in children?
So that's a very good question, and what we have seen from original Wuhan virus to Delta, and now Omicron is still, we have to see the data, but from Wuhan to Alpha and Delta, what we have seen that children have mild disease. Second thing is the transmission potential of children is always low. It is always more likely from the adult to adult transmission rather than child to adult transmission. And also they transmit it for the lesser time. And but what we have seen that viral load increase from the say Wuhan to Alpha and Alpha to Delta, and maybe more. It may increase even in the say Omicron. And gradually, we cannot say that children don't transmit the disease, but still, when it is so prevalent, so much community transmission is going on. So we cannot just isolate one, when you are open, you have restaurant, everything other thing is open, and we just close the school. So singling out, pointing out to the children that they transmit, that's not correct. And definitely with variant, this is changing to certain extent, but still children transmit, but to lower extent and for shorter period of time. And there is always more possibility of adults giving infection to the children. And with the vaccination status going up, this is slightly shifting towards down, but still it will always be there that children have less viral load than adults, whatever is the variant, and children transmit it for the lesser time.
All right, well, that's reassuring to know. And now with Maharashtra opening up schools, hopefully other states will follow, given, the local situation in those states. And yes, get those children back into classes. And, as you said, this has had a tremendous impact on children and learning across the country. Thank you so much, Dr. Thakur, for joining us on the program today. Well, let's now take a look at the situation in metros, and daily cases seem to have started crossing the third wave peaks. In Mumbai, at least, cases are down from the peak by 88%. 2,550 new cases were reported yesterday. That's 28% lower than the day before. If we talk about the capital, then 9,197 new COVID cases were reported in Delhi. The positivity rate is down to 13.32%. And however, if we talk about Karnataka, well, there the cases have crossed 50,000 in a day, and Bengaluru is reporting over half of these cases. The positivity rate is a huge 22.77%. Well, to talk more about the third wave, we're now joined by Dr. Dhiman Kahali, Director, BM Birla Heart Research Center, and Dr. Hrishikesh Pai, Senior Consultant, Lilavati Hospital, Mumbai. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us. We were talking about, schools reopening in Maharashtra, which is a very welcome step. And there also seems to be a sense that perhaps now the trend is that at least in Delhi and Mumbai, that the cases may have crossed the peak. First to you, Dr. Hrishikesh Pai.
Yeah, I think, good morning, everybody. I think that I think we have crossed the peak, and there is a study that has come from Madras IIT which has shown the RR rate of 1.57. So I think in the next 2 weeks, India will peak as well. So I think it's a very good sign. We have, this particular strain of the virus is highly infective, but it doesn't have that much admission in the hospital. So, and there's not that much of morbidity. And probably the vaccination, most of the healthcare workers have taken the 2 doses, and the third dose is also going on. That may also increase the immunity to a certain extent. Also, the community immunity is where the vaccination program in Mumbai has been very, very well organized and very effective. And I think all that has, the task force has done a very great job in implementing the program very aggressively. And that has given us very good fruits now. We are seeing the fruits of what effort was taken in the last 1 year. The fruits are being manifested just now in the form of the falling rate of the disease.
Right. Dr. Dhiman Kahali, if we talk, about the metros again, after the festival season, we've seen this spike in most of the metros, and now it seems to be waning a bit. But the worry is that a lot of people, there was a lot of travel during the festival season, and the worry is that people will take the disease back to the, rural pockets, and it's going to spread rapidly over there as well.
Yeah, your data, what you have been showing since morning itself shows what you have been talking. That in Mumbai metro itself, city, 2,550 cases, and it is down by 28% in comparison to Saturday. But if you look at the Maharashtra situation, it is 40,850. So it's very high. In Karnataka, it is 50,200 cases. Also in Bengaluru, it is 26,800 or 300. So in metro, some of the metros, the numbers are coming down, like in Kolkata also, it has come down. In West Bengal, the total number is 7,000 today in last 24 hours. And I can give you some more information regarding some of the optimistic, predictions from none other than World Health Organization. What was telecast in, France 24 TV during midnight yesterday, that hopefully Europe will see the end of this pandemic after this Omicron wave. I don't know how far it is going to be true.
Yes, that was very interesting because the WHO in charge of Europe, he spoke about how this is so infectious that it's going to just spread rapidly. He said in the next couple of weeks or months, it's going to affect 80% of the population. And he says post that, because Omicron is so infectious, post that there will be this lull and because of vaccines and because of infections, that it may not be able to spread any further, and we might see the end game, is what he called it, of the pandemic, isn't it, Dr. Kahali?
Yeah, absolutely. What you have been telling, they have mentioned categorically, WHO, that after this Omicron wave is over, it is plausible, that was the language given by them, that Europe may send end to the game, pandemic game. That we don't know what would happen to this part, that is the Asia, US, and also, Latin America, because what you see globally, yesterday in UK, the incidence of new cases in 24 hours was 75,000. And as we have been talking for the last 12 minutes, that the incidence of death was very low, even among the adult population in UK. Only 75 people died. In Russia, it was 53,000 patients who were affected during the last 24 hours. In UK or US also, the numbers are very high. So why this geographical differentiation that Europe will be over, but will not be over, that needs to be clarified by World Health Organization. And it's true that the numbers will go up a little because there have been so many melas, there has been so many traveling around, because people have become now restless. Yesterday in Brussels, in the capital of Belgium, there was a demonstration by 50,000 odd patients against the COVID cups, which is happening isolated way in India also.
That's right. In Europe especially, we've seen a lot of protests over, COVID protocols. Though I have to say in India, we haven't, seen the same level, which is very good that everybody's just accepting of science and going for the vaccinations. Dr. Pai, talking of science, the genomic panel, the genomic consortium has said Omicron is in community spread in the metros, but they've also spoken about this particular sub-variant of Omicron, BA.2, and that has also been found in high numbers, and that's something that scientists across the world also watching closely. So, we are still going to see new variants emerging, and that's something we have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the past pandemics, there have been smaller peaks that have come, and as my co-panelist has said, now probably the pandemic is on the wane, but we'll still see some smaller peaks maybe in the next 1-2 years. We don't know because the variants may change. But I think the shift has to be from the numbers to the actual admissions in the hospitals which need ICU care or oxygen care, because I think it has community spread has occurred, and a lot of people are not doing the RT-PCR tests at all. I know a lot of people, if they have fever, they just they do rapid antigen tests and they quarantine. So we don't know exact figure, and so we should not go on the figures. What we should look at is what is the end point. What is happening at the hospital level? Are there patients who need oxygen? What are the patients that are going to the ICU? What is the mortality? So let us now shift our focus from the numbers to the actionable point. So what happens is that we keep on taking precautions, but we know that community spread has occurred. We can't do anything about it. People are not doing the testing. So let's look at the actual endpoint. So I think from the endpoint view, this disease is milder. We are, I think, very lucky this time, and maybe we'll come out of it more wiser.
All right. Well, that's the hope. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the program this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
With that, time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, we take a look at the controversy over marital rape and whether it's the definition of consent that's under the scanner. The The Delhi High Court will be hearing the ongoing case on petitions challenging the legal exception that protects men from criminal prosecution in cases of forced non-consensual intercourse with their wives. Now, the Delhi High Court is currently in the process of hearing final arguments in a series of PILs challenging the marital rape exception clause, Section 375 of the Indian Penal Code. Section 375 of IPC defines various acts that, if done against a woman's consent by force, fraud or coercion, or to a woman incapable of giving consent, are defined as rape. The heart of the debate is the exception 2 to Section 375, which states that any sexual act performed by a man on his own wife is not rape as long as the wife is not a minor. Well, to talk more about this, we're joined by Satyendra Jain, the Additional Solicitor General. And sir, can you explain why this should not be struck down?
See, this issue came to limelight or became an issue of debate after the very, very unfortunate and heinous crime committed on Nirbhaya. The then government constituted a committee also headed by Justice Verma, the retired judge of the Supreme Court. And they, after examining all issues in detail, also recommended the deletion of this clause exception, which says that if you commit a rape on your own wife, unless she is less than 15 years of age, which legally is not permissible.
Right, so now the government in its affidavit says that it needs more time to present its stand on the ground, that the matter needed wider consultations and a larger hearing of all stakeholders. This apart from the obvious issues of social disharmony and damage to marriage and family systems. Why?
Any amendment in law, any step that you take which involves the social relationship and involve almost each and every family, I am in total agreement with the government on that point, should be done after thorough deliberation and after thorough consultation. Because even in the committee reports also, somewhere it has been discussed. There is another point of view which says it can disturb the social harmony within the family. It can disturb the relationship between the husband and wife also. But then at the same time, all the laws, domestic violence, the 398 and all other laws, there is an apprehension of the relationship getting disturbed, social relationship, the working relationship within the family. That should not stop the enactment of the law. But I totally agree with the government on this point that this should be done after thorough consultation, after thorough deliberation, and there is no point in delaying it. Today, the time has come. Technology has gone to that advancement that sitting in one place, you can consult the entire country through your computer, through your WhatsApp, through your Zoom, webs, and all those things. So this can be done, and Parliament session is there. MPs can meet formally also, informally also. Then there are standing committees which consist of representatives from almost all the political parties. They can examine it. But I think time has come when we should expedite the process and do it, though of course after consulting all the stakeholders.
Right. So as you pointed out, consult stakeholders, but just move on it. And it's possible with technology. Now, as this petition is heard in the court, there have been arguments made from certain, men's rights organizations that have opposed this petition. And many claim that Section 375 will be misused by women to file false rape cases against them if the exception is removed. So how do we ensure that it isn't?
For that, I think there have to be two factors which will have to be kept in mind. Number one should believe his wife. Why should you presume that your wife will go against you willingly, knowingly, intentionally? Why? That shows that there is some lack of understanding between the two. And if there is a lack of understanding between the two, only then there is an apprehension that wife may misuse this clause. Otherwise, if the relationship is good, I don't think any Indian wife will go to the court of law. Secondly, simply because the law can be misused, there is an apprehension that it can be misused, is no ground to withhold the law. Correct. Tell me one law in India, criminal law, which has not been misused. There are many cases. As a lawyer, I can tell you, after 10 years, 15 years, the man is acquitted of murder. After 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, the person is acquitted of rape and all that. There have been many examples where the law has been misused. No doubt about it. But then, such cases are not as high as would stop the passing of the act. All these apprehensions are always there, even under the Dhuri Act, under many other laws. There are examples where it has been used. Even courts have been saying that. But here there is an apprehension
I think that should not be a ground to withhold the passing of the act and deletion of this clause. But as I said earlier, you also said it, and some people are of the view, if you do it after thorough deliberation, of taking all men organization, women organization, and all those who stand for equality, them also into consideration, I think the chances will be minimized.
All right, Satyendra Jain, thank you so much for speaking to us on this very, very, important and sensitive topic.